where he was saying there will be punishments to financial institutions. He literally is a net zero zealot.
It's already happening. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, Mark Carney's met with the UN Secretary General. This guy's an eco-nut, a net zero zealot, just like Mark Carney. So he's already putting these gears in motion. He's not wasting any time. And with that, we've got Australian News taking shots at Mark Carney, bringing up a clip of him saying that he wants to tax and increase the cost of flying, essentially encouraging people not to fly. Then we'll move over into a document that's been uncovered that links Mark Carney and Donald Trump. I mentioned it in the Kushner bailout video. Well, now we have proof that they have leverage over each other. They completely duped the Liberals in getting the vote. These guys are working together. Mark Carney's not going to fight for Canada. Let's jump into this. First up, we got Sheree Teese here. It says, if the Conservatives had won the popular vote by 2.4% instead of the Liberal, they would be in the very same position as the Liberal Party right now. Though this is a tough pill to swallow. You can see here 165 to 147. So yeah, very similar. The problem with this campaign, there was so much Liberal slander saying Poilievre would take away women's rights and abortion rights and all these kind of things, and there was no pushback. It seems Conservative candidates were not allowed to push back against this stuff, and I don't agree on this tactic, this strategy coming from the top, coming from Pierre Poilievre's strategy team, Jenny Byrne. I do not agree with this at all. This was a horrible decision because, well, they lost the election. There needs to be more freedom for candidates to be able to speak out and do radio shows and clear stuff up in their local communities across Canada. We got this new map for Western Alliance. This one bigger than the other ones, including Manitoba as well. I think this is jumping the gun here. We'll see what happens with Alberta first. Next up, we got this one from Mark Nixon. It says, do the elbows up agree with the National Post? Americans agree that Carney victory was their doing. Wondering how many voters are now asking themselves, WTF just happened? Next up, we got this one from Brian Lilly. It says, Trump's trade representative speaks about negotiations with Canada, takes shot at Trudeau, compliments Carney, and has good things to say about manufacturing in North America.
What happens is the more ambitious a country is, the more ambitious we can be. We're working with the UK very closely. We're working with Korea. We're taking anyone who's ready to move forward, and we're moving as quickly as we can.
Okay, the new Canadian Prime Minister on trade. Take a listen.
Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality.
So he essentially ran on being anti-Trump. And talked a lot tough about what they're going to do retaliatory. How does that go with Canada?
Well, I think you heard today the president in the cabinet meeting talked about his interactions with the new prime minister, and he said they've been positive. They had a call a few weeks ago as well, and they were positive. I think the new prime minister is a serious person, not the same experience we had with the old Canadian prime minister, and the president very much wants to have a healthy relationship in North America. We should have more manufacturing in North America. We need to have it in our hemisphere. And we'll see how the relationship goes. It's really at the leaders level with the president and the prime minister, but we stand ready to engage it.
So what we're seeing here is that Mark Carney, I mentioned this a while ago, and it seems to be true. Mark Carney has leverage over Donald Trump. This one posted by Stephen Panwasi. This is news to me. I haven't seen this one coming from the United States Senate. This is going back to 2022, so this has been ongoing. It says here, Dear Mr. Flatt, this is Bruce Flatt, CEO of Brookfield Asset Management. This Bruce Flatt. I'm writing regarding Brookfield Asset Management's refusal to provide the Senate Finance Committee information it has related to transaction with Kushner companies involving funding from the government of Qatar. As you are aware, the committee is investigating whether former senior White House advisor Jared Kushner's financial conflicts of interest influence U.S. policy in the Middle East. In particular, the committee's investigation seeks to uncover the full extent of which Brookfield was aware that a fund co-owned by the government of Qatar would be used to carry out a $1.2 billion bailout of the struggling Kushner property. They are investigating, and Brookfield is keeping this information hidden. So they do have a piece there. Mark Carney came in after this was happening, but guaranteed he can call up his buddy Bruce here. He's known for 25 years and say, hey, we need to use this as a leverage point so I can get more from Donald Trump, or he's able to control Donald Trump or get a better deal or get rid of the tariffs or whatever it may be. I don't know what his positioning is here. He just moved the business to America. So these guys are working on this together. These guys are not enemies. This money and this whole situation with foreign policy, the bailout property, as I showed in the previous video, Jared Kushner and Mark Carney standing right next to each other. These guys know each other. I bet you Donald Trump and Mark Carney already know each other as well. So to clarify, Mark Carney came into Brookfield in 2020. This happened in 2018, 2 years before he got there. But, so now I'm going to speculate, this was a favor that Bruce Flatt did for Donald Trump. Mark Carney coming in his chair, knowing Bruce Flatt for 25 years. If I were a betting man, they made a plan that Mark Carney becomes prime minister, changes policies that enrich Brookfield. Perhaps Brookfield becomes a top contract recipient for the Canadian government on many contracts, including housing, using Modular Group, among many other of Brookfield's companies. But this leverage point gives Mark Carney control over Donald Trump. In the same token, though, if Donald Trump exposed this, then Brookfield would be in trouble. So it's almost like they've got each other and they have to work together. The Liberals voted for the guy who they thought would push back against Trump. Instead, it appears they got Trump's business partner. So Stephen posted a couple other ones here. This one says when the formal decision was made to move the headquarters to the United States, despite records showing relocation was completed during his tenure. So this was just going in contrast with Mark Carney saying he didn't move Brookfield. He did move Brookfield. He lied to Canadians about it. And Canadians still voted for this liar. This one too, Brookfield used Cayman Islands to register third fund managed by Carney. $5 billion fund under Mark Carney's leadership, Brookfield Asset Management, registered in Cayman Islands, an additional 2 other funds. So I have all those on the board here. So the Cayman Island fund is here. This is the $5 billion Catalytic Transition Fund. And just below it here, we have the other 2 funds. This is the Global Transition Fund 1 at $15 billion and fund number 2 for $10 billion. I'm going to consolidate them because I've got more details here. So this is actually Transition Fund number 1, the $15 billion one. This is the one that's focused on green steel. New Transition Fund, Brookfield eyes green steel for multi-billion-dollar new transition fund. As I've already pointed out in another video, green steel can raise the cost of steel by 35 to 70%. Finally, he posted this one, which is news to me. I'll add to the graph, but it says in the 1980s, Edward and Peter Bronfman. Now, who's Peter Bronfman? He's the cousin of Stephen Bronfman. Remember Stephen Bronfman? This guy here revealed Justin Trudeau's close advisor helped him move huge sums offshore. So this guy has been known for doing this. He knows how to do this, and this is Justin Trudeau's close advisor. We're not going to get into the detailed family history right now, but Peter Bronfman and Stephen Bronfman are first cousins once removed. Edward and Peter Bronfman were 2 of Canada's richest men. They also presided over one of the most complicated corporate structures, with booty from their acquisition spree split between dozens of public companies and hundreds more private vehicles. Edward sold his shares in 1989, retired, and took up philanthropy. Peter stayed on to orchestrate the deal that would create Brookfield. At the center of the transaction was Pagurian Corporation, which was controlled by executives including Cockwell and shared its name with a species of crab having no shell of its own, steals the exteriors of dead snails. So what's interesting about this, Cockwell, I've already got him on the board. Old Jack Cockwell here, been in Brookfield, director of Brookfield since 1979. And this is the guy who's on the board of directors for Rogers. And Rogers just had 49.9% stake in the company bought by Blackstone. And Blackstone, you can see here, the CEO and chairman is Stephen A. Schwartzman. Schwartzman chaired Donald Trump's Strategic and Policy Forum in 2017, donated $33.5 million to Republican candidates. Canadians got duped. Liberals voted for who they thought would push back against Trump. It turns out Mark Carney is working with Donald Trump. Good job, Liberals. You voted for the wrong guy. So it appears Brookfield and Mark Carney have been shielding Donald Trump for years to get an IOU in the future. Peter Bronfman was at the core of setting up Brookfield. Now on the Liberals' own website here, this is their National Board of Directors. If we scroll down, who do we got here? Stephen Bronfman, the revenue chair of all jobs. So Mark Carney has brought him back on. Do you wonder why? We'll jump into this more later, but here's an article that says how the Bronfman family founded Brookfield. We also have the Bronfman family on Wikipedia, and here we have Peter Bronfman right here. And we have Stephen Bronfman right here. This was Justin Trudeau's advisor. Now, one might think, isn't this good that Mark Carney seems like he has leverage over Donald Trump? I'm sure Liberals would be celebrating this. This is bad because, first off, Mark Carney's going to do what's best for him and his shareholders himself, Brookfield Asset Management. Secondly, just think about this going forward. If Mark Carney has leverage on Trump, and clearly Trump has leverage on Canada because we rely on them to survive, this is going to blow up at some point because Mark Carney's probably going to try to force Trump to do some of this net zero agenda, eco-green stuff. He's going to tell Carney to buzz off. This relationship is a powder keg that is going to explode at some point. Next up, jumping over to Australian news here, they obliterate Mark Carney.
But just on Mark Carney's record, he's gone on television pushing for taxes on flying due to climate change. Here he is.
But should we be flying less now?
We should be taking into account the impact of our flying on the planet now. And that's
for pushing up the tax on flying.
You push up the tax on flying, you push up the cost on transport, and that's in part what putting a price on carbon is.
So do Canadians know what they...
It's amazing. Mark Carney admitted that he wants to increase a tax on flying. He wants to increase that price. But don't worry, Brookfield invested in Infinium, so they're going to make money once they put a CBAM carbon tariff on jet fuel in Canada. Nothing that some new Canadian regulations can't take care of, right, Mark? So if we go down here to this one, Infinium, this company here, Brookfield invested $1.1 billion in Infinium for low carbon e-fuels. I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or two, Mark Carney forces Canadian companies, Air Canada, WestJet, to have a certain portion, 10% of their jet fuel has to come from green jet fuel. And Infinium here, American company, will come to the rescue for Mark Carney's new policy. Developed in West Texas. Liberal voters got duped. Mark Carney is working for America. Congratulations. And Mark Carney's working for himself because the 6.8 million stock options he has is going to go up in value once he does this. Just another one of his conflicts of interest.
They've signed up for?
Mm-hmm. I do not think that Canadians understand what we've signed up for. And earlier you played the clip of him at COP24. And he basically says, Michael Bloomberg is part of, it's on Bloomberg TV, right? But basically COP24 is the, COP26 rather, UN climate change conference in Glasgow, where he was saying there will be punishments to financial institutions if the emissions of their clients are not up to snuff in a way. They want to do everything to keep oil in the ground, coal not burning. They're not for pipelines. They're not for oil and gas. They're for all electric. And that is never spoken about in the mainstream media. He literally is a net zero zealot.
So the question is, are we going to have green sustainable aviation fuel? What's happened in the UK, the EU, is they've said to major airlines, look, if you're flying in and out of Heathrow or wherever, you have to have 10% of your load has to be sustainable aviation fuel by, I think it's 2030. In this case, a company called Infinium, to become economic. Because all of a sudden, American Airlines, British Airways need to buy that fuel. They'll pay a green premium. We, Brookfield, put $1 billion to work there. And, it's a fantastic opportunity.
And you think, well, what are you hoping to accomplish? By 2050, he wants us to be in a net zero world. Does that mean you don't drive a car? You don't fly in a plane? You don't heat your home? You don't have a hot shower? All these basic things, these are never spoken about in the media.
Falls in line with that Horizons report where everyone's going to have to hunt and fish for their own food. This is what Mark Carney wants, his net zero agenda. When it comes down to it, he doesn't really care what happens. It's just he's going to make money off the back end of it because Brookfield is set up to make money on all these green initiatives. This is all a big money-making thing. He just cares about money. He doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about the planet. He doesn't care about any of that.
But these are his beliefs. And these beliefs, I believe, are for him to gain such massive control because he has control over world banks, leaders. You put these stipulations on these financial institutions because you punish them for their emissions. And you are in power. He's a very powerful person. And do we really think that he gave everything up? He left, Brookfield Asset Management, which is like a BlackRock, to give everything up to come and save Canada? If Canadians can't see that he's an installation, then the wool is just completely being pulled over their eyes. And I think that that's exactly what's happened. The wool was pulled over their eyes. He was,
You can see that there with those interviews in Nanaimo. People have no idea what's going on.
Touted as this financial genius, this, former banker, this, he was a former banker, the governor of England, the bank, the governor of the Bank of Canada. But he is really a complete climate activist, but only not for good gain. It's not like he really believes in this. He has no problem buying a pipeline in the UAE or in South America, but he will shut down Canadian pipelines.
Or Colonial Pipeline that they just bought, an American pipeline. Brookfield owns Inter Pipeline in Alberta, but they don't want competition for that pipeline. They're very strategic with which assets they deal with. If Mark Carney can get in as prime minister, as now he's done, he can control that.
He had totally approved of killing the Northern Gateway pipeline, but yet he'll buy a pipeline somewhere else. He's all for this Bill 69, which is a known, and he will not repeal that, which means that we cannot cultivate our oil and gas in Canada. He's a man that claims to want to oh, he'll fix all the problems with Trump. But really, Canadian jobs, Canadian oil, we have suffered under the Liberals. And I don't think that Canadians understand just what they've elected.
Canadians are about to find out here, and they're going to realize, oh crap, they're going to realize they screwed over all of us by voting Liberal. Got this post from Government EXE. It says Parliament does not reconvene until May 26th. The place has been closed since October 2024. Well, technically, they've been there all the way up until December 15th, but everything has been gridlocked with the SDTC scandal, the filibustering, all of that. So yeah, basically nothing's been happening since October. That's 9 months of taxation without representation while giving themselves a pay raise on April 1st. Canadians should be disgusted by this. I mean, I was calling them lazy the other day. Get back in there. No more of this sitting around doing nothing stuff. All the members of Parliament who know what's going on, they should be back in there working. All the other ones who need orientation, give them orientation. Get back to work. As someone's posting the schedule here, they're not back until the 26th. There's this basically a full month before they go back. He's trying to form a majority government, so when he enters, he wants to be like Trump and pass everything he wants to without being blocked. Might as well sell the building. It's not used very much. Canada's become a one-party state. I mean, that's what's happening here. Next up, we got a clip here coming from Facebook of this lady talking about how solar panels affects the land, negatively affects the land. And she openly walks into this installation where they're preparing the land for solar panels.
So I just wanted to bring you here to show you.
Who are you? Sorry.
I've just been let in by these guys. This is a solar panel farm that's being put up in the West Country. Look at this field down here that they're completely ripping up in order to.
You can't be on here. No.
Thank you. Don't push me down. You can't touch me.
You can't be on here.
I just walked in.
You can't be on here.
They're completely destroying the valley to put solar panels up. And these solar panels they're just ripping up entire areas of our countryside. And let me show you as well the plastic packaging that these guys have. So I don't know why you're getting across with me. It's you that's ripping up my countryside. Please don't discuss with me. Thank you. So the plastic packaging that goes around all of this stuff, none of this can be recycled, obviously, but it's so green. It's so good for the environment, I'm sure. And I'm sure local people didn't want this on their farmland either, because this makes it harder for farmers to be able to rent space. Please don't touch me.
And they're valid points. I mean, when you're drilling for oil, not exactly ripping up the entire surface of the earth. Not to mention the outputs of energy are significantly more.
And then over here, let me show you these boxes. I'll go in a moment, okay? I just want to show people what's being delivered to our farmland. And I let myself in, it was no one else, thank you. And here is all the solar panels. Bear in mind, these solar panels can't be recycled. So this is all future landfill. Look at the size of these things. And look at all the plastic wrap on there. It's heartbreaking, look at it. This is the rolling countryside that we belong to, that belongs to us. And this is what these vandals are doing to it. I don't blame the people.
It's a very valid argument she has here. I mean, it does a lot of environmental destruction, not providing all that much power. Solar panels work great in places that are like deserts, where you're not basically touching the ground at all. Ground doesn't have any grass. You're not ripping stuff up. You're just putting it down, getting energy versus actually tearing it up to put this stuff down. After seeing all that with the Brookfield family connected to creating Brookfield, Donald Trump, the bailout property, and Mark Carney, these guys know each other. They got each other by the cojones, and they know that if one squeezes, the other one's going to squeeze back. The only way out for these guys is to help each other. Liberals got used, Liberals got duped, and you can bet that Carney isn't going to be serving Canada.